You're listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.
Leo Zarate, what's going on, brother?
Not much, just here with you, Gabe, to share my story, sir.
You know, you've made a big change in your life this year.
Yes, sir.
Explain to people what you did.
Well, I've worked all my life, worked for companies that have made really good money, but I was never fulfilled. So here recently, I went up to my previous employer and I resigned. They asked me why, and I told them that I was going to follow my dream. And they asked me what was the dream. So I told them, hey, I'm going to influence, motivate, and inspire people to do what's written in their heart. And my manager pulled me aside, and he said, you know what,
They think you're crazy?
He thought I was crazy, but he also told me, he goes, I appreciate the time that I had with you. I knew this was coming, so I wish you the best of luck. Although the rest of the crew didn't think so, right? They kind of criticized, and they said they'd give me more money, but, no amount of money can keep me there, because I told them my dream was not for sale anymore. God was tugging at my heart to follow what he has put in my heart. And I had fought that for the longest time because I got wrapped up in life.
Yeah.
Life tells us that, hey, get married, get a job, provide, give your family, buy a house, get by. But that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that we're supposed to make our money early, enjoy life, spend time with our family, but society and the workforce nowadays is different. So therefore, I resigned. I was sitting at a McAllister's with my wife, and I had told her for years, I want to be a motivational speaker. I don't know how to go about it. So she said, you know what? Let's Google something. We did. And Mr. Daniel Gomez came up. So we gave him a call.
Is he from San Antonio?
He's from San Antonio, and he's a motivational speaker. He's a keynote speaker, and he's done a lot of events all over the world. I didn't know that at the time. So we called him up, and he says, you know what? Gave me a few questions. I answered him. He says, I like what you're saying. So how about if I give you a 45-minute free consultation, and we'll see where it goes. So we said, all right. So we set up a consultation. I met with him. He says, you have talent. He says, I put on some a Sticker Shock Express, and I really would like to invite you to come over here, although everything costs nowadays. So it's not you're spending money, you're investing in yourself. It's totally up to you. So I attended one in March of 2021. And it was revealing because he teaches you the ropes. He teaches you how to write a book. He teaches you how to speak. It's a wonderful 2-day event. And ever since then, I've been with him to several conferences, and I'm reaching out and I'm improving my skills, and going to be a motivational speaker. First of all, I'm a man of God that he allows me to inspire people.
Yeah.
So that's my new journey.
So when you met this guy, did you instantly feel good vibes from him, or did it take some time to just hear him out? And I'm sure you prayed on it, and but was there still doubt in you, or was it something where you were already? It sounds like if your employer was already saying, "Hey, we could tell this was coming." It was something that was building. It wasn't like you woke up one night and said, "Hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z." It's something that you'd been carrying for a while, and you were looking. Like we talked about earlier, there's that comfort, right? There's that comfort of existing, and I think a lot of us, like we talked about earlier, you shouldn't aspire to be not miserable, right? You should aspire to be happy in what you do, and a lot of us don't do that. I'm guilty of it too. I mean, we talked about that a little bit ago, but we're so afraid to get out of our comfort zone, and we're so scared to take that chance because of financial reasons and having to take steps backward or whatever it may be. The majority of us live paycheck to paycheck, so it's like to take a step back. It's not just a matter of time. It's in money. I mean, for some people, that's kind of the pickle there, right? There's no room behind you because you're living in a budgeted life that way. But I mean, there's a price to pay for chasing what you want to get into. So.
Absolutely. Success always has a price. Some people are willing to pay it and some people aren't.
What has been your price so far?
My lifestyle. It's changed dramatically.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked for corporations where I've made over 6 figures.
Yeah.
I've had the nice cars. I've had the nice RVs. I've had the vacations. I've had, feed the neighborhood because we could.
Yeah.
And we would. My daughter and my son, they've had everything that they wanted. We weren't rich, but they were well provided for.
Sure.
So when I left that, I gave up a good salary. I really did. And sometimes I want to run back to making the money because it's a comfort zone, but the good Bible says never go back, always move forward. So that has been a pivotal point to keep me going forward, because the Bible always also says that if you activate the faith, the amount of faith that you activate is the amount of faith that you will receive. So I'm moving forward despite. And it's hard. It's hard because now to pay my bills, and we get by. That's all it is. I do Uber and Lyft. And I pick up people and I drop them off, and different individuals get into my car, and I'm able to practice what I'm going for, because
That's interesting.
No, it is
Yeah.
because the automobile industry uses that platform, the medical, and then the airport. But the most crucial that I like is the rehabs. You get people that I pick them up in the mornings, and I take them to their treatment, or I pick them up from their treatment, and the conversations we have, they're amazing, because I'll find individuals crying in the back of my car. And I don't mean to make them cry. I'm just telling them the truth, the raw, true facts. I ask them, what got you here? And they're like, what do you mean? I mean, I requested a ride. I said, no. What got you here? What did you do to get to where you're at? And they shut down, right? Because who am I? I'm just an Uber driver, right?
It's kind of an in-your-face question, but
That's
it's
right.
honesty.
But it's honesty, right? And they're like, I said, it's like the Bible. When God asked Job, hey, what are you doing here? He's like, what do you mean? I come from out. No, but what did you do to get here? And they're like, well, I did this and this. I said, yeah, I understand. We all go through things, and you have a purpose in your life. And your purpose is to take what you have, the experiences that you have, and turn your mess into a message. I said, you're the perfect person to be an advocate for young kids or for young women that are going into this, because you've been through it. I said, I can't go share what you've been through with them because I've never been through it. So you are the perfect candidate. You have the experiences, you have the doubts, you have the fear, you have everything to do that, but your mind is holding you back. I said, it doesn't matter how big you are, how strong you are, it's your mind that keeps you small. And that's what the devil wants. The devil wants to keep you small. He wants to put you aside where he don't have to worry about you. But when you step out in your courage and you start speaking, then you're going to have trouble. And that's what's going on. And they break down. And, some will even tell me, Gabe, they tell me that they have been counseling for 3 years with these organizations. And what I do for them in 30 minutes is worth more than the 3 years that they've had with these counselors.
Well, I think a lot of people that are living, a negative life experience, in the sense that maybe it's a medical condition that's come from something, or I've done a few podcasts with friends of mine who have been on drugs before and had terrible experiences with that. And, I think there comes a time for some folks where they feel like they're in a position where their life experiences have put them somewhere that they don't care to be, and they feel like they have nothing to offer somebody else. But the opposite is true, right? Just like my buddy Bob, who's really bad on drugs. He's at a point now where he's helping others who are on drugs, and it's what comes out of that terrible place is something beautiful.
Absolutely.
You just have to understand that you have something to offer somebody else, even though you think you don't. You really do. And so being able to convey that to people, get them to understand that, that's a big deal, man.
No, and it is. It's a life changer for many. They reach out and they're like, hey, man, do you have a number where I can keep in contact? I'm like, no, I don't. Can I request you more often because I need more of this? There's a story where me and my wife, we went to go eat with one of her colleagues. She was a bus driver, right? Katrina, I think her name was. And Roosevelt invited me. I said, yeah, sure, I'll go. So usually when I go, I'll sit and I'll meet people, and I get the feel for it. I assess, right? And when the opportunity arises, woo, I'm much like Gabe. I jump right in. I'm like, woo, here I am. Let's get it. And this young lady was telling me, you know what? I'm a chauffeur. I'm a bus driver. I'm a single mom. I need to make more money. This is what I want to do. So I said, well, what's keeping you from doing it? And she kind of looked at me like, what? I said, what's keeping you from doing it? She says, well, I need to make money. I said, yeah, but you're making money. I said, you know what? You need to take a chance on you. You know the business. You know what you're doing. All you got to do is take a chance on you. You have the ability within you. You do it every day. It's just that you don't believe that you can do it. She broke down and cried, and oh my God, and then she got sentimental, and we spoke. And
you know what I think's scary about that conversation? When I hear you talking about it, I think what's scary about that conversation is that people feel like you're 100% correct, because you might be, but that there's a little bit of fear there that people don't, and I'm guilty of this too, people don't trust themselves. Like they don't see their capability the way you see it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
like
absolutely.
Like if you sit there and go, you know what, I know you can do X, Y, and Z, Gabe. I'd sit there and go, I don't know if I can do X, Y, and Z, Leo. You know, and I guarantee you, those two people that you talked about, both of them, it's an emotional thing, because they don't know that they're capable of it. They want to believe it, but they're not seeing what you're seeing. They're not seeing when you're saying that, I'm thinking, well, what about their avenues? But then I think about the story you just told about yourself. There was no avenue. There's an avenue. You weren't aware of it. You Googled it. You know, and it's like sometimes I sit there and my excuse for myself is, well, I wouldn't even know how to get started, Leo. You got a phone in your hand, you're on it all day. Google it, you know, look it up, go to YouTube.
The thing is, Gabe, that we don't need to know our next step. We don't. We just need to show up. It's not our job to figure out where we're going. It's our job to just show up, and he will get us where we're going. And that's the fear. The fear is getting into your mindset. The hardest part about anything is believing in yourself. We believe in other people. Well, I can tell you all day, hey man, Gabe, you can do this, this, and this. I believe in you. But Gabe has to believe in himself. Because if Gabe doesn't believe in himself, Gabe won't take that next step. He won't, because it's fear.
Yeah.
And fear is false evidence appearing real. We do it to ourselves. When I drive, fear rides in the passenger side.
Hang on, Leo, you just blew my mind. I was digesting that false evidence appearing real. Okay. Damn, Leo.
And that's what it is. We create it for ourselves. Because how many times, Gabe, have you been somewhere, or say your reviews like we were talking earlier, right? And you've assimilated and you've thought about everything that's going to happen, and then you go and it doesn't, right? Or your boss, Trey, he says, oh man, I'm going to approach Gabe and I'm going to give him this and this is what's going to happen. And Gabe shows up and say, hey, give it to me. He's like, what? He's taken by it because that's not the expectation he was waiting for. He was waiting for that battle, for that head on. But Gabe says, give it to me, I'll sign it. And he's like, well, you don't want to read it? Like, no. Why? So it's those instances that carry us to where we need to be, you know? So
I think that belief thing is huge, because like we talked about earlier, like if I went and started my own business, I know I'd be successful, because like we talked about earlier, it's not being cocky. It's just I know if I did for myself what I do for my employer, I wouldn't fail, you know? But it's the belief that, like you said, showing up, having a good attitude, believing, and just getting started, you know? That's, I think, the hiccup. That's where people are so afraid to make that transition, because of that comfort. Yeah. You know, comfort will kill you.
Being comfortable is a dangerous place to be, right?
Yeah.
Because you sit in, you dwell in, you're comfortable. When you want to grow, you have to step out of your comfort zone, and you have to grow and you have to develop. A lot of people says, oh, you know, I'm going through this. No, you're not. You're growing through it. And when you grow through it, it becomes easier. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And after a while, it's like a walk in the park. Just like we spoke earlier. You said, oh man, the first time I started, I didn't know what to do. But now you do it 6-7 hours a day. And it's easy, because you've done it repetitions. And repetition is the thing to do. If you don't know what you're going to do, get with somebody that does. They're your mentor. They will show you. It won't make you the best, but it'll cut out the shortcuts. The mistakes that they've made, you won't make them, because they'll guide you. But you have to invest in yourself, because the mind is the most powerful asset you'll ever possess. And a human's superpower is a made-up mind. Once you make up your mind, there's nobody going to stop you. Tell me, Gabe, when's the last time you made up your mind and someone changed your mind? It doesn't happen.
I'm married, Leo, so
As much as we joke about it,
Yeah.
it's true. When Geb says, hey, we're going to do this, I made up my mind. You do it. You know, it's like the story about the gentleman that's walking down the street. He'd walk down the street and he'd see this dog laying on a bed of nails. And the dog was moaning and going, "Arr, arr." So the guys, looked at him and walked on by. He walked on by for a week. One day he stopped and he asked the owner, he says, hey, why doesn't your dog get off of the bed of nails? He says, well, he'll get off when he's sick and tired of being sick and tired. He'll get off. And that's the way we are. You have to reach that point of being sick and tired to make a change in your life. Sometimes it's forced upon you. Say they kick you out of the house. So-and-so got kicked out of the house because his mom and dad, whatever happened, you're out. Then you're forced to become a man, right? You're forced to grow up because you have your back against the wall. And humans, when they have their back against the walls, they'll kick and scratch. They'll do whatever they need to do for survival. And that's just the way it is. There's no different.
It's interesting how you talk about how if you want to get into something, reach out to somebody that's in it. In doing this podcasting deal, I've talked to a lot of different people, and it's very interesting because it's not that I don't have faith in people, right? I do. But it's interesting to hear people that are good at something or people that excel in something, especially a lot of the weightlifting guys that I've talked to. There's a lot of competitiveness in the world, but it's interesting that when I talk to more and more people that specialize in something, they want to share that with somebody else. They enjoy when somebody goes, hey, can you show me how to do what you do? And like you said, there's a lot of there's competitiveness in it. There's people that want to have, hit the top spot at the gym or make more money. But at the same time, it's interesting that when people reach out to them or reach out to other people that are good at something, they love sharing that. And I think a lot of us are kind of like, well, he wouldn't want to show me. He doesn't want to show me how to do X, Y, and Z. But the opposite's true, too.
You never know what someone's thinking until you ask them.
Yeah.
See, a lot of times we think, oh, people are talking about me. People don't have time to talk about you. They're worried about their own stuff.
Sure.
People look at your way, at a party, whatever. Oh, that guy doesn't like me. How do you know?
Yeah.
When my son was growing up, he was going through the school system, and I lived in Alice, and the job moved me to Victoria. So he had to be in a new school, and my daughter had to be in a new school. And that broke my heart because we all grew up in one school. We know everybody, and life is easy. But I put him through something that I'd hate to be myself. But nevertheless, I went to his school for a year, and I ate lunch with him and stuff like that. And he told me, Dad, I don't like that guy. I said, why? I said, why don't you like that young man? Oh, I don't know. He doesn't talk to me or whatever. So I told him, you know what? Reach out and get to know the kid. He's probably be a good guy. So my son started taking that advice, and he'd come back and he'd tell me, hey, you know what? That guy's a good guy. I said, but a lot of times we're afraid because we put limits on ourselves. We look out there and we think, oh, I'm too small, or I'm too fat, or I'm too skinny. I don't want to socialize with them. Nobody's going to like me. Nobody even looks at that. My wife often tells me, I tell her, hey, baby, you look beautiful.
You got an amazing wife, by the way.
Yes, I do. And I tell her, hey, you're beautiful. And she comes back with, oh, no, I'm this and this. I said, look, don't make me see you the way you see yourself. If that's the way you see yourself, that's fine. But don't make me look at you like that.
Yeah.
And now she's starting to realize, okay, because those are limitations that we place on ourselves.
Damn it, Leo, you just made me feel pretty.
I'm telling you, you're gorgeous, brother. You are. And it's true because we all see people in different images, right? I mean, you've often seen somebody and you say, hey, man, look at that guy. That guy looks like so-and-so. And that guy don't think he looks like so-and-so because it's our belief system.
We're super critical of ourselves.
Absolutely.
That we don't have to be concerned with other people being critical of us. We're doing it enough on our own.
Yes, we are. You can never have an attitude above your belief system, right? If you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you can't. Both people are right. So with that said, you have to take a leap of faith. You have to step in the direction that it's leading you. It's like you're walking in the fog. You can't see your next. You don't know where you're going because it's foggy. But if you take one step and then the next step and the next step, soon enough you're going to get where you're going. You say, wow, how did I get here? You followed. You followed and you took your step and finally you got there.
You know what's funny is my buddy Bo, the guy that owns this place. I'm a cocky guy, Leo, on the outside, but I do have my doubts about myself. And it's funny because my buddy Bo, whether he believes it all the time or not is one thing, but he always says, why not? Hey, can you do X, Y, and Z? Yeah, why not? Why can't I?
Yep.
And that, whether he believes it 100% or not, it's what he projects.
That's right.
He's like, why can't I do that? Why wouldn't we do that? You know, and it's funny because it always makes me pause, because I will overthink things. I will overthink things till I don't do them. You know, and it's like there's a reason why I can't do X, Y, and Z. I'll find it. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
Let me think about why I can. And I always talk myself out of that. Yeah. And it's funny because that's just how I'm doing it to myself.
Yeah.
You know, my buddy Bo says, "Why not? Why can't I do that? Of course I can."
Yeah.
You know, and it's just too. Whether I seriously believe that I can't do it, or he seriously believes that he can, is one thing. But it's the projection of that mentality that is where it starts.
It's
right?
all about perception. Your world and my world is the same thing. We just see it differently.
Damn you, Leo. Now I'm looking at myself differently.
That's not a bad thing, Gabe, because you were meant to do this. This is your forte right here. This is the arena that you need to be in to get you to where Gabe's going. Gabe doesn't know it, but that's where he's going. You know, someday this is going to pay you the riches that you're looking for without even looking for it. It's going to happen. One of these days, bam, someone's going to come to you, hey, you know, we listen to your podcast. I need you over here. And you're like, that's too real to be true. And you have to be able to recognize opportunities. And when opportunities come your way, you need to jump on them, because soon enough they won't come your way.
I think that happens a lot.
Yeah,
I think that happens. I think we always ask for God for signs, and then we ignore them when we see them, or we don't recognize them. You know, and that's another part. Whether it's love, whether it's employment, whether it's a career, you know, recognizing your opportunity. And again, like you said, you ignore them enough times, they stop coming.
Yep.
You know, and man, that's tough. That's tough to think about.
It's a tough cookie to bite, right?
Yeah, it is.
See, God will tell you, he says, look, you need to show up. I'll save you. I'll forgive you every day. But if you want something, you got to do it. I cannot bless something that you can't do. How am I going to bless something that you're not willing to work? Do the work, and I'll bless it.
That's good.
And it's true. It's true.
That's good that you put it that way. Yeah. Yeah, he can't bless something that you're not
willing to give him.
That's crazy.
So basically, anybody out there can do anything that they want. You're going to have blood, sweat, and tears. There's no two ways about it. And you're going to fail. That's good, because there's power in failure. Yeah. And so long as you don't do it over and over and over.
That's where we learn is in failures.
Yeah. Failure will teach you. There's a lot of corporations out there. Since I've been going with my mentor, there's corporations out there that embrace failure. You know, you have a failure, come to me, be transparent. We'll talk about it, and we'll fix it, and we'll move on. But you have to be transparent. You have to have the courage enough to know that, hey, I messed up. And our pride gets in our way. Oh, I'm not going to do that because they think I'm stupid. We put all these formulas into our head that prevents us from moving forward, prevents us from doing something that we should have done. You know, I tell people, you know, start doing today what you should have done 5 years ago, because it's written in your heart. You know it's been tugging you, otherwise you wouldn't have been thinking about it. If there's something in your mind that you're thinking about over and over and over and over and constantly, that is what you're supposed to be doing. That's your calling.
I feel like those two things are negatively married. Having doubt in yourself and not being willing to fail. If they're married in the sense that your failure, even though you're going to learn from it, even though it's a life experience, your failure to you is confirmation that you shouldn't have believed in yourself. And those are two things that I think people need to divorce.
Absolutely.
They're not together. They don't live together. They're not married. That failure is the learning process. You know, it's something that I think we all try and avoid, and in doing so, that just feeds that lack of belief in ourselves. It's a bad place to be.
It does get. We are looking for people to qualify us.
Right.
Hey, you know, I did this, Gabe. Are you good with it? If you're good with it, I'll move on. If you're not, we won't. But God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. So that means you show up and he'll qualify you. It doesn't matter what your past is. Has no idea. Because we're the only human species that can live one way for 30, 40, 50 years, flip a switch and live completely different. People are out there, testimonies. They'll tell you, hey man, I was a drug dealer for, so many years. I spent so many years here and there, and look where I'm at now. It's a testimony. We can do that. You just need to take an act of faith. You need to follow what's in your heart, and you gotta keep showing up. And soon enough, a couple of years, my mentor, he worked in the car business for years. His wife came down with a sickness, cancer, and he didn't know what to do. And God told him to leave it behind. I got something better for you. So he became a motivational speaker for the longest time. Oh my God. 5 years later, Gabe, he's a millionaire. He's got a nice house. He's got a swimming pool, spa, nice boat. His wife has a Porsche. He has a 2022, 23 Corvette, because he took the faith and he did it. And he'll tell you, I struggled. The struggle is real for everybody. It's not just for me. It's for everybody. And he teaches you you're possible, you're worthy, you're deserving, you're loving, you can do it. You got to do the work. And he tells me every day, Leo, you're not putting in the work. And he's right. He's right, because I'm caught up in paying my bills. I'm caught up in, hey, I got to do this, but this is over here. So if I put more time in it, the transition will happen. And soon enough, I won't need this. Sometimes I get focused too much on this. I need to be focused over here. But
I like that you have a mentor, and I think I think in certain aspects of life and careers, mentors are pretty common. But I feel like, I don't know, I could be completely wrong because I'm at the age that I'm at and I'm learning what I've learned up to this point. But I feel like having a mentorship was something that people did a long time ago, right? And I feel like we've kind of gotten away from having a mentor because we want to feel like we're on our own path, and granted you are, but at the same time, if you're have an opportunity, it's like shooting guns, right? I love to teach people how to shoot guns because I always say shooting guns, riding motorcycles, those are things you need to learn from other people. Because when you make a mistake doing those things, you get hurt really bad. Same thing that goes for your career, right? If you don't have a mentor and somebody to help guide you because they've already gone through some of the hardships that you're going to go through, if they can alleviate a fraction of those hardships, why wouldn't you want to learn from that person?
Absolutely.
If I screwed up 100 times and I can tell you about all 100 and you only screw up 80, that's 20 screw-ups you avoided. Why wouldn't you want that? So having a mentor, I love when people do. When I was a kid, I would have said, that's stupid. I don't want that. As an adult, I go, man, it's crucial. That he's helping guide you through the hardships that he's already endured, and he's saving you hardships by guiding you.
Absolutely.
And I think people need to reach out for mentorships. I think that's critical.
No, they do. A lot of mistakes that people make is think that they can do it by themselves.
Yeah.
Leo Zarate, I can do it by myself. But and they're afraid to ask for help because what are they going to think? But it's okay. Not everybody can do something by themselves. It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
And once you do, like you said, you avoid certain things because they've been through it. And say, don't do that, don't do this, don't do this. They're not there to take your money because it's an investment. Don't get me wrong. When you invest in a business, it's for your investment, for your family and stuff.
Well, you're paying for knowledge too.
Yeah. You're paying for the knowledge and the wisdom.
Yeah.
And knowledge is knowledge only if it works for you. You can have all the knowledge in the world. You got a lot of people out there graduated, with PhDs and stuff like that. They don't have jobs. You're like, why? Because they don't know how to use their knowledge. Or they're afraid, well, I got the degree, but I can't. I can't do that. But you got the degree. You went to school for X amount of years. That's what you went to school for. They don't believe in themselves. So if they ask for help and they get on their way, a lot of companies will hire you and you don't know anything about the business. They'll teach you and you'll grow when you develop. And that's kind of like asking for help. But when you start your own business, you don't have that because it's your business. So you reach out to a mentor, you reach out for someone to help you, you invest in yourself, and they guide you along that rocky path. And you'll get where you're going, depending on what kind of energy you put into your business. And that's the bottom line. It's okay to ask for help. Don't be ashamed to ask for help.
Yeah.
Because they were there, and they'll tell you, yeah, I was ashamed, and I had to get over that really quick. Because your business will only take you as far as you want to take it. And the quicker you get there, you have to be intentional about what you're doing, because when you become intentional, you become a lot more clear. And when you become a lot more clear, you start focusing. And then when you start focusing, doors start opening up. And then the transition starts happening. And they say, holy shit, this is really possible for me. Holy moly, I didn't think that. But
Yeah.
your mind shifts, and it's not an easy path. Some people can shift it quicker than others, but some people it takes a while. You know, I've always said there's quick learners and thorough learners, and it's okay. You know, so long as you get where you're going. See, so the point is,
Has there ever been in this? Now, granted, you left your job this year, but have you hit any of those walls where it's almost been a hiccup in your process up to this point, or have you been pretty much focused and heading in that direction with no looking back? I mean, there's got to be times where I'm sure whether it's financially or whatever, but has there been a time here recently where you've kind of said, questioned your decision and head in this direction that you're in now?
I question it all the time, but I'm halfway there, so why stop?
Yeah.
You know, it's the doubt. Everybody's got the doubt. Doubt will creep in behind your nice tuxedo. It'll creep in behind your nice shades. It'll creep into your house, into your car, into your spa. It'll creep in. Doubt's always there. Everybody's got it.
What's your process working through that doubt?
Move forward. It's me.
In your faith?
It's my faith, and it's nobody's coming to your rescue, Gabe. Nobody's coming to your rescue. You are your own rescue. So if you want to do something to be fulfilled, you have to do what's written in your heart, and you got to do it full-heartedly. You have the courage and the confidence that you can make it work. And that's all you need. Those are all the tools that you need to build a shed.
That's interesting. I think a lot of people, just from things that I observe, they're expecting a lifeline, you know. And I think once you can kind of accept that, like you said, nobody's coming, well, it forces you to get up. It forces you to move. It forces, instead of just sitting around waiting for somebody to come and say, hey, you know, here's your opportunity. You know, when you can kind of accept that that's not coming from anybody else, you've got to work to get it yourself. You've got to work to achieve it. You've got to pursue that, whatever it is that you want to do. Nobody's going to bring it to you. I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. That's that mind shift, right? It's hard. It's almost like seeing the world with different glasses, right?
Absolutely.
And it's like, well, I've always worn these glasses. This is how I see the world. You know, it's got to be tough to get people to. I mean, once they do, there's freedom in it, right? There's freedom in seeing taking the red pill. You know, there's freedom in that. But at the same time, it's like, well, I've always done this, you know. And then when you hit people like 45 years old, you know, and it's like, well, I've all of my adult life, the past 25 years, I've always slept on the right side of the bed. What do you mean I got to sleep on the left now? It's scary. It's scary, but it's important, you know.
There's nothing scarier, Gabe. You mentioned a number, 45. I'm 59, and I still have drive in me. So long as I have air in my lungs, I have purpose on this earth.
Yeah.
So I have to believe that he has me here for a purpose. And I got to go and fulfill that purpose, because it says, Gabe, when you were born, I gave you something to do specifically. And I need you to do it in a determined time. And you have to do it. You have to bring it to life, because if not, you're going to take it to you with your grave. On your bed, you're going to be sitting there, and there's going to be all these ghosts of opportunities around. And say, Gabe, why didn't you bring me to life? The other ones say, Gabe, yeah, I was ready for it. I was waiting 45 years. And I've always said the richest place on this earth is the cemetery.
Yeah.
Because people take all their dreams and aspirations.
Damn you, Leo. You know what's funny? You know what's funny is I tell Nina regularly, and man, I'm probably I am. I'm my worst enemy.
We all are.
And I sit there and I tell Nina, I'm like, you know what? I always tell her, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I know that. I know it, because I feel it in my heart that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, you know? And the bad thing about that is when you've got a person like me that knows they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they still haven't made that move, you know? I sit there and I go, that makes me feel like a shitty person, Leo.
You're waiting for somebody else to do it for you.
Well, you know what? There's a little bit of that. I'm basically what I just talked about, waiting for that opportunity to come. And it's like, well, the opportunity is not coming. You've got to go. You've got to go to it. You know, And there's that damn comfort again. You sit there and go, okay, that's Gabe. What I just talked about, that's Gabe talking Gabe out of it. You know, give me 5 minutes. I'll talk myself out of it. I promise you.
It's like I told you earlier, Gabe. Perfection is an illusion that will never show up. It's an excuse that we use never to jump into the arena that we were meant to be.
I'm probably going to say damn you, Leo, a lot today.
You did warn me. You did warn me ahead of time. But it's true, right?
Yeah.
Because you tell somebody, hey, you can do this. Oh, and I do it myself. I'm guilty myself. Oh, I got to study a little bit more. Oh, I got to perfect this. I got to do that. That's an excuse. When I went to church this morning, he said, stop doing that. Go do what you got to do, and he will bless you. Just do it. Stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. And I'm like, oh, how can I argue with that? Because of all the motivational books that I've written, all the podcast motivationals that I've seen, a lot of it, 95% of it comes from the Bible. It does. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Meaning that you can change your life because he put the ability within you to do it. So now you have to take the responsibility to do it. You have to change your mindset. Your heart will take you places if you let it. But the doubt creeps in. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. But everybody looks at you and says, Gabe, man, you're great at it. And Gabe's like, fuck, man, I ain't great at shit. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to hide behind this little cover back here. I ain't doing it. But God has this for you. When we have this, it's a small cup. He has the huge cup. But he wants to bless you with the big cup. But he can't bless you with that big cup if you don't show up. If you don't take that lid off that big cup, he can't fill it with water. Imagine this. You got your cup. It's got a lid. I'm trying to pour water into it to bless you, and it's just spilling all over. It's not going inside, so you'll never be fulfilled. But if you take that lid off and take a chance on Gabe, and I fill it, you'll be like, oh, my God, why didn't I do this years ago? Why I should have done this years ago? But it's a leap of faith. And everybody that talks, that has a podcast will tell you, it's you. It's you. You're your answer. You're your worst nightmare. You're the secret to your success. It's all you. That's why I say, look in the mirror. That's the guy you're looking at. That's the guy that's holding you back. That's the guy that's putting limitations. But it's our mind, our mindset, how we think. And
Do you think that there's this is just me thinking out loud, so you can say, nah, we can move on, but do you think that there is an inefficiency with how we raise kids in the sense of what we put in their head, maybe what they're learning in public school systems, obviously at home, but is there something that can be done, in your opinion, maybe through public school systems, maybe through other means and avenues, that can get young people to think differently? That way they don't turn into older folks that are still looking for their...
Absolutely. When a kid is getting raised, you need to show him that anything's possible. You have to make him do things. I have 3 grandkids, and I put a ladder in my living room. I say, climb it. Oh, I can't. I said, you know what? I'm here to guide you. And they climb it afraid, and they climb it, and they get down, and they're like, oh man, I did it. That's the greatest payday. I did it. I accomplished. When you accomplish tasks, it's great feeling, you know. And they're afraid, but that's just like business. The road to success is always under construction, but you have to take the next step. The middle one, oh, he'll shake and he'll climb up there and he comes down. But once he's done, it's an accomplishment. The little one, she runs up. So you see the differences. And it's all investing energy in them, letting them know that they're loved, letting them know that they're willing, letting them know that they can do it. But society, we're so wrapped up in providing, making money to pay the house, barely getting by, that we don't have time to invest the time in the kids and the energy. Because you get home, you have to cook dinner, you have to clean the house, you have the kids to bath, so you're tired. And it takes extra energy to invest in these kids, which are yours, by the way, to make them live morally and creatively and productively part of society, that we push them aside because we're all about us. I mean, I get home and I'm tired, but I'll go up there and I'll get my Bible and I'll read it for a little while, or I'll get my notes and I'll polish up my skills, and then you go to bed, because it said, hey, you don't rest when you're tired, you rest when you're done. And if a lot of people took that to heart, it'd be a different world out there. But we're out of energy because we're tired of doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over, that you just get tired and weary. But past the weariness, there's a great life. Don't ever let your good be better than your great. And we get to that point, oh, I'm good. But yeah, you could be great. Takes a little more energy, takes a little more effort, but you could be great. Are you willing to pay that price? Are you willing? And a lot of people, like, they don't want to because you got to step out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
I mean, changing my lifestyle to now, people are like, I told you. But it's okay because I'm willing to sacrifice 100,000, 200,000 in 2 years to get to be a millionaire or get over 7 figures or whatever it may be, because that's where I'm headed, because I believe that's where I'm going. But sometimes I doubt myself. Oh, this is going to happen. I'm not sure, but you need to move forward. You need to move forward. And the more you move forward, the more it'll get easier and easier, and you'll be able to accomplish it. And then people will ridicule you. They'll ridicule you before they applaud you. But once you get where you're going, everyone wants to be your friend.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I want to be like you. How do I do it? And you tell them, like, that's great. I ain't doing that shit.
Yeah. Well, that's probably partly because I think a lot of times people conflict someone else's success with what their dream is. People want to be successful, right? A lot of people don't understand the avenue, so they say, yeah, okay, well, Leo's done something. Leo's successful. I want to be successful. What did you do to become successful, Leo? And you tell them, and they think you're crazy. Well, that's just because that's not your avenue. That's not your dream. Yep. And I guarantee you, if for that same person, if the person who was successful was living the dream that they really wanted to live, they wouldn't think that was crazy. Yeah, no, they go, I can do that. Yeah.
See, I always tell people, your vision is your vision. Nobody else can see that. Your friends and your family will see you for who you are, but your vision will show you who you will become.
Damn you, Leo. Wait, at what point in your life did you feel this was something you wanted to do? Was it when you were younger, or was it as you matured and you got to a point where you had those life experiences and then I guess your ultimate goal became more clear? Or was it something that you've always had inside of you that you wanted to do?
See, this goes way back when I was a kid. I had 2 older sisters and 2 younger brothers, and I was the middle child, right? They would tell me, you're different. You're a different child. You're different. And when I was younger, it bothered me because I didn't want to be different. I wanted to be like everybody else, like society. I want to be like everybody else. But as I grew up and I discovered myself, I figured out that I thought different. That's why I was different. So people say, oh, think out of the box. I'm like, what box? I've never been in a box. I was thinking different. There was this one time where my parents went across the border, and you need to get permission and papers and all that. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and they didn't have this one document they needed. And my dad told my sister, you know what? Call Leo, and he'll get it done. And she's like, what is he going to do? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. He said, you know what? Just call him. He'll get it done. Don't worry about it. Just call him. And he sat down. She called me. She said, hey, we're here. This is it. I said, don't worry about it. I got up, got in my car, went knocking on doors 3 o'clock in the morning. I was crazy. I told them what's going on. They understood. They signed the paperwork. Got it, faxed it back to them, sent them off. And they got by. I didn't know all this till about 3 months later when my sister were sitting down at dinner. She says, you know what? She goes, I didn't know what Mom and Dad saw in you. She said, but that night when he told me to call you that you would take care of this, I said, you're crazy. He ain't going to do nothing. It's 3 o'clock. What is he going to do? He goes, and they came by. And we went, and I'm like, wow, that's the difference.
Your dad had faith in you?
Yeah, because I was different.
Yeah.
I didn't do the typical. If they told me, don't jump over that puddle because you're going to get dirty and your mom's going to grab you by the ear and take you and stuff, I would go around it. My little brother or my younger brother, he'd jump, he'd fall in. I'd see it. Like, oh, my God, I'm not doing that. So I was wiser at a younger age. And this is something that I would tell my friends all the time. Hey, you do this, you do that. I would encourage them and I would motivate them. And the difference between encouraging and motivating, motivation will run out. But the discipline is what gets you to go. Because we all get started. You get a new project. Oh, I'm motivated, let's do it. And the motivation goes. And then like, now you got to be disciplined. And that's what gets you where you're going, not the motivation. The motivation is good to get you started, but the discipline will get you to the end of the road if you are disciplined.
Yeah.
So this is something that
a lot of people show up with just one of those.
Yeah.
Not both. And you need, like you said, you need one to get started, and you need the other one to keep going.
Yep.
So
this is something that it's been on my heart for the longest time, but because I was wrapped up in life, I pushed it aside. And I can't no longer push it. Because the Bible says that you have 70 or 80 good years depending on how you take care of yourself. So I look at it and say, shit, I'm going to be 60. I got 20 more years. Woohoo! You know, I got more in me. I got to do something. You know, if I sit and I'm bored, I don't got nothing to do, I'll fall asleep.
Yeah.
But if you get me activated, and I'll go all day. My wife says, I don't know how you do it, because the brain is working. And the book also says a man without vision will perish. So therefore, if I'm bored, I'm doing this. And people at the house don't know what to do, so they get bored and they're just sitting there. They start drinking, they start doing weed, and they get wrapped up, and then they can't go back. But if you get activated in something that you're interested in, it keeps you busy all day long. You don't have time for all that other stuff. So I would say it started at a young age. And I should have started doing this years ago. Because I ponder now, what if I would have done this when I was 25? What if I would have done this when I was, 30, when I was young and I had that super energy to go? But now I have to muster the energy because...
Yeah, but do you think that's something that God planned for?
Oh, absolutely.
Because, it's I'm terrible at it, man. I always look backwards. I do it too much. There's nothing wrong with looking backwards, but it's bad when you look back and you kind of hang around there too long. But for him to put this in you now and to give you the I don't know, the belief in yourself to make that leap now, maybe even though you were wired that way your whole life. Just talked to Nina's aunt, Gracie. She was talking about going for some cancer screening that she was going to get. And she said she had a feeling that something was wrong. They called her. They said, hey, the machine's down. We can't do it for another week. And she said she looked at it as God was giving me another week to work on my faith. So similarly to you, where it's, okay, well, yeah, you could have started at 25, but maybe you just needed you needed more time so that when you did jump into it, you would be successful. It's just interesting how that works out.
No, it is because whatever's for you can't be forced. But when God puts it for you, it can't be stopped. So there's an appointment and an anointment, and they have to meet up. You have to align those two things. And yeah, sometimes some start later. Look at Kentucky Fried Chicken. He didn't start his business till he was 60, and look where it's at now.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. But what I want to do is let these kids know, the younger kids, that they can get there.
Yeah.
I want to be that mentor for them that plants that seed and watch it grow. I want to be the one that changes their lives. Although I don't change anything. I just plant the seed and watch it grow. God does the changing. He allows them to change their mind and believe in themselves. And he gives me a front row seat to witness the change. And that's awesome. It really is.
I like hearing that. I was talking to my buddy Jared the other day, and for me as a young person in high school, fresh out of high school, I was a little naive. I was also in a small town. I also was kind of just an idiot too, man. I'll be honest with you. I'm an idiot as an adult, so you could imagine.
We all were.
But right after high school, I was like, what are my options, right? My options were the refinery. Sister's been there forever. There's a federal prison in town. My brother and my buddy works there. There are state prisons down the road. There was a refinery in Corpus, and then my brother was an electrician. So I was like, maybe I'll go to electrical. Like, to me, right out of high school, to me, I was like, oh, those are my 5 options. That's what I'm going to do. I didn't understand what else was there. And whether it was me being naive, maybe it was the adults around me not, saying, hey, there's more stuff out there. Whatever it was, to me, that's all there was, So, like, we're talking about my buddy Jared the other day, finding opportunities and then exposing these kids to those opportunities so they can start achieving what they're meant to achieve earlier. I love doing this podcast stuff, man. I started it 2 years ago. I was 44. Nowadays there's so much technology out there and so much information for these younger people and in rural. Like, I love the rural kids, man. That's where I grew up. So being able to expose them and to teach them and to provide mentorship to kids like that at a younger age, man, that just gives them more time to be successful.
No, it does.
You know, that's super important. That means a lot to me. I like that people were willing to do that for people like that.
Yeah, because in school, the most important rule about school is to get you to your fullest potential, right? But if we don't know that, we do what we do. And school and whatever. Teachers are there to teach us. They're there because they like to teach you. They like to be around kids. They like to influence you. They like to impact you. But we don't know that. We're kids.
Yeah.
And how can somebody like our parents teach us something that they don't know? We have counselors. I never went to a counselor. I thought a counselor was for problems. But had I gone to the counselor, she said, hey, look, this is college. This is what it's for. This is what it'll do for you. If I knew then what I knew now, Gabe, it'd be different, bro.
Well, I've told this story a couple of times already. When I was a freshman in high school, I'll make it quick. 'Cause everybody listening's heard it 1,000 times. When I was a freshman in high school, I just got into high school. I'm 14 years old. I'm just 2 years into discovering my body, Leo. You know, I get there and we sit down with the counselor, and she says, "Hey, we need to plan your high school education." Okay. I'm 14, you know, I'm a dumbass. And I said, give me every pre and informal algebra that you have. I want all the easy math, you know. I'm thinking this is going to be sweet. And she looks at me and she says, okay. And so she signs me up for it. And I often think now as an adult, I look back and I go, man, if she would have just said, you know what, Gabe, let's try a little harder. Let's put a little more effort into this. I know you can do it. I would have been like, all right. And maybe that would have benefited me later on in my life. There were classes that I took in college in B County that people had in high school, you know. And so I look back and I'm like, man, I was paying for things that people had taken in high school because I was 14 when I laid that out. And the adult in the room didn't go, hey, man, you're going to have to take these when you go to B County. So why don't you just take them here in high school? You know, and there wasn't. I missed out on that. You know,
you didn't know any better.
Didn't know any better. I was a kid. So.
See, school is about connecting the dots. It just depends on what dots you connect. If you know better, if you've been told, you connect the higher dots to a higher graph.
Sure.
To a more profitable future. But if you don't, you connect the lower drops. So in terms, hey, I'm going to have an easy life now, but we didn't know we were going to have a harder life later. Had we known that we'd have a harder life early, we'd have an easier life now. But we don't know, and that's what I mean. Yeah. We don't know the things that we don't know, and that's the greatest power, knowing what you don't know. But if there's people out there that will teach you, you need to take advantage of that. You need to go to your counselor, because school is a very important institute, because it's the weapon that can be used to change the world.
Sure.
It's the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it. But we didn't know no better. Prepare for what? I got to live tomorrow, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that was our mentality, because
my daddy was a coal miner, and I'm going to be a coal miner. You know,
for the longest time, I was going to be in the collision industry. My dad was a collision. That's all I knew. Mm-hmm. My dad would always tell me, hey, if you want to do well, you got to move up north. And I'm like, I ain't move up north. What the hell's wrong with you? Yeah. This is my hometown. This is my stomping ground. I don't move up north. But your opportunity came, and I did. I told my boss one day when I was working for this other corporation, I said, you know what, I'm tired of being here. I'm done. He's like, you know, you're good at what you do. I mean, I've been watching you for the last year. You don't take a lunch break. You know nothing. You need to stop to take a lunch break, but nevertheless. He said, give it a week and we'll talk. I said, all right. So I went up to him in a week, and he says, you know what, there's a position in another city. You have to move. And I'm like, move? I ain't gonna move. What the hell's wrong with you? This is home, and it is.
Well, you know, that's a big small town boy mentality. But I have the same one.
That it is. So he said, you know what, this is what they'll pay you, this and this. So one day I was off, and I said, you know what, let me drive up there. It's my career, I better take care of it. So I went up there and talked to the gentleman. He says, yeah, I want you. I'll pay you for you. And we crunched numbers, and he gave me a number. And I went back to work, and he said, hey, what'd you think? I said, yeah, I think I'm going to take it. And I went up there, and I drove to him, and he said, he's going to give me this. He says, what? He says, I already told you this. I said, no, he told me this. So I'll go for this. And he didn't have a foot to stand on, because. So I went over there, and that was my first move, and it was from Alice to Victoria, Texas. And I took my family 6 months later, and that's where the journey began. And then after that, they closed it, and they moved up to San Antonio, and here I am. But if you don't get out of where you're at, you'll never see more exposure. will do wonders for you.
Sure.
But you have to take that exposure, because if I had never done that, we'd be there. And now, my kids at the time didn't know. It was uncomfortable for them, but now they say, man, thank God you got us out of Alice. Nothing against Alice, but there's so many more opportunities up here now. And they see that. But when you have a small town mentality, you don't see that. This is home. I ain't going nowhere. What am I going to do out there? And I try to tell people there's more out there. You got to open your eyes. You got to go and explore, and you got to expose yourself. And when in the exposure, you'll change. But
I fought that change, man. I was terrible. When I went to B County, I went for drafting. And I think I was working at the jail in George West, Live County Jail. And my sister would always make fun of me. And she'd say, out of all your friends, you're the only one trying to get back to George West, you know? And I was like, man, I don't want to leave, you know? I was like, Mom makes amazing dinner. We always have toilet paper and shampoo. Why would I want to leave? You know, but I was looking for a job in that area. Mm-hmm. And so I think I even went to the Valley for a while. Didn't find anything there. I ended up in Corpus. And then I ended up in San Antonio the first time. I've been here twice now. And it was funny because when I came to San Antonio, I was taking drafting or architectural classes at UTSA. And every weekend, I'd go to George West. Every weekend. Had my laundry every weekend, lock up the apartment and go down. And I remember one day I'm sitting there with my dad, and my dad looks at me and he says, Mijo, you don't have to come down every weekend. And I remember thinking, what are you talking about? This is what I do. You know, and it took me so long to get out of that mentality that I got to go home. I got to go see my family. I go to see my friends. This is where I'm at. This is home, you know. And it wasn't until, I don't know, not even marrying Nina. Like, it wasn't until maybe 6 or 7 years ago where I was late 30s. And I finally was like, okay, George West isn't my home anymore. It's where I'm from, but it's not my home anymore. And it was that small town mentality, man. Not everybody has it from a small town, but I did. This is where I'm from. This is what I do. Everything about me is here. You know, I don't need anything outside of here. You know, and that retarded my growth, right? That retarded my ambition. That retarded my where I wanted to be. You know,
your drive.
My drive. It stopped all that stuff. And now it's kind of like, okay, well, that's where I'm from. My family's still there. My friends are still there, but I can move on a little bit, man.
Oh, absolutely. Your growth is beyond where you were at. If you stay where you're at, you'll never grow. But if you step out, you'll grow tremendously. And only then can you reflect on what was. And you got to thank that's what it was. Because Gabe wasn't asked to be born in George West. Gabe was born in George West.
I always say Gabe was lucky to be being from George West.
So be it.
Great town.
But
Great
nevertheless, you weren't asked.
Yeah.
You were born there. And then your parents gave you what they gave you, knowing what they knew. And a lot of people will despise their parents. Oh, I'm angry with my parents because but we can't be angry at them because they raised us, they gave us what they could. We need to embrace that and use that as a pivot point to pivot off for our better, for our future, to reach back and to help them. You know, the door for success is only big enough for one person, and that person has to go through it by himself. And only then can he come back and take everybody else with him. Because a lot of people from a small town want to become successful with everybody on their back. I'm taking care of my aunt. I'm taking care of my mom and dad. I'm taking care of my cousins. I'm taking care of this. And I want to be successful, take care of them. And it doesn't happen. You have to leave all that behind. You have to become successful. And then you go back for everybody else. But it's hard to do that because you have to detach, divorce, get away from the friends that, you know, your new you will always cost you your old you, and people don't want to release their old you. And where there's residue, there's resurrection. So you have to cut it clean, and you have to move on. You have to do what you got to do, and only that come back and realize, okay, you know, I was blessed that I was able to do this. But a lot of people won't do it. They have talent. They go to high school, and they're the high school, you know, football quarterback and the best, and that's all. And you're like, man, you had so much talent, because we believe in people, but we don't believe in ourselves. So when it comes to believing in ourselves, like, yeah, whatever, you know, they see this, and those are.
I think also a lot of it is, you know, our belief in ourselves comes from you being in a small town. You know, my confidence is greater when I'm where I'm from.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
because everybody knows you.
everybody knows you, and that's your support structure too, right? That's the people that have your best interest at heart as well, and that want you to be successful. You know, when you go out and let's say you move to a larger city, you move to Houston or New York or Chicago or wherever you go, and it's like all of a sudden you're
Isolated.
You're isolated. You're nobody, and it's only up to you to become somebody. You know, and it's scary because even though that's where your growth will happen, you go from and it's almost a night and day, like a switch, right? Because you go from having this massive support structure and this familiarity of everything that you've known your whole life, and then you go somewhere else where none of that exists anymore, and it takes a belief in yourself again, right? It takes a lot of that, and that's where you go, man, I had less of that than what I thought I did, and that's scary. And I think that's where people start to fail or start to, maybe give up on their dreams a little quicker because they don't have that support structure that they had before. And instead of pushing through it and weathering that storm of doubt, right? Letting the devil in and tell you, no, you can't do that. You got to go back and be who you were. I think that's where that's that tough transition line right there, right? That's that tough spot where you either get it and you move forward, or you don't get it and you go back.
Some people are forced to move forward, right? Some people aren't. But when you go on your own, you have to use the experiences and you have to reflect on the people that believed in you. And they believed in you enough to get you out of there that you have to believe in yourself to keep moving forward. Because the devil's greatest weapon to a disciplined man and woman is distraction. He will distract you from doing what you're supposed to be doing, even if it's a good thing. Moving away is a good thing. But he'll tell you, hey, man, we're getting a party over here. Gabe's got to be here. So what does Gabe do? Gabe runs back. And the first year,
Leo.
and the first year is the hardest.
Yeah.
The second year, it gets easier. The third year, you're starting to grow roots. You're starting to make friends. But it starts to become a little more comfortable. But,
I always went back. It's funny that you say that shit, Leo, because I always went back because I always told myself, I'm missing out on something. I'm missing something. All my friends are hanging out. They're having a barbecue. They're having a birthday party for one of the kids. I'm missing out, And that was where my mind was. My mind was never, hey, what's forward for me? My mind was always, what am I missing? And so I'm trying to drive a car, but I'm looking through the back window. And it's hard to drive that way, Leo.
Have you ever thought about, like you said right now, if you look at your windshield, you look in your mirror. You can't move forward looking backwards, and that's what you were doing. You were looking backwards.
Sure.
Your mirror was this big, and your windshield's this big. That gives you the opportunity to move forward with ease. But if you're doing this, you keep hitting something, and you were holding yourself back, and that's what so many of us do.
1,000% me, Leo. 1,000% me.
And for me as well, until I started having my mentor and thinking different. And my way of thinking changing is what gives me the ability to see things different now. And it's amazing and overwhelming, and I ain't gonna lie to you. Sometimes I break down. And I say, why couldn't I do this earlier? Why didn't I find a mentor earlier? But he tells me, your time will come. Your time will come. Don't let nobody force you. I'm processing you. Because if I had $1 million company, Gabe, and I went through the process of getting it and the anxiety and all that, and I told you, Gabe, I'm going to give you my company in a month. Gabe's like, oh, hell yeah, man, I'm having this money, I'm going to buy me a car, I'm going to do this. Within a year, you'd lose it because you weren't processed. You don't know how to handle the anxiety. You don't know how to handle the finances. So you'd lose it. So in order to get to where you need to be processed. And sometimes that process is harder. It takes longer for you than it does for me. Some people are like, bam, they're off and they're gone. And you say, man, look at that dude. Man, he fucking just took off like a rocket. That's great because his timing's ready. And he's right, and he goes.
Well, that we only pay attention we only pay attention to the high points, right? Like we were talking about my buddy Bo. You only see the high points. You only see the beautiful homes that he builds. You only see the cool stuff that he gets into. You don't see the legwork. You don't see the sweat. You don't see the crying. You don't see the bleeding. You don't see
the in between.
Yes.
Yep. And that's what happens a lot of times, right? You start here and you go here, and in the process you become. It's not the process that we have to worry about. It's who we're becoming while we're going through the process. And that's what people say, oh man, he's so lucky, but that person that's saying he's so lucky didn't see him worrying about how am I going to pay my employees. He didn't see about, hey, he had to eat a sandwich opposed to a steak. He didn't see that, hey, his wife's on her last leg and she said, you know what, if you don't get this stuff going, I'm going to leave you. He didn't see that. So those are all the sacrifices that you need to make. And sometimes God will give you those. You ask him for strength and he'll give you trouble to process you, to get you to where you're going. And we don't see that. We say, oh man, I've done everything right, and look, everything goes wrong. But look where you're at. You're not where you're at or where you started. You're over here. And then you look at it and you break it and say, oh shit. Hey, you know what? You're right. And then that flips the switch and you change. You know what? Yeah, and I'm halfway. If I give up, I only got this much more to go. But if I give up, I go all the way back here and then I got to start again. So you know what? I'm halfway there. Might as well just keep going.
Do you think that, not to be negative, but do you think that older gentlemen like us getting into your dream career, searching for a dream career, do you think getting into that at an older age, whether it's us or not, what do you think success out of that is? Do you think that success, had 25-year-old Leo started it, 25-year-old Leo would be an extreme financial success. Older Leo getting into it still has that potential for financial success. But do you think, and then life experiences make us think differently, of course, right? Mm-hmm. Because as I get older, my mentality changes too. I chased $1 my whole life, and I told people I got just as much money in the bank now that I did when I was making $1,000 a month at jail. Do you think as we get older, success is going to be that monetary deal? Or do you think success for us is being able to be an example to a younger person to chase their success at an earlier age than what we did?
See, success is defined differently by different individuals, right?
Well, what is it for you?
For me, I'm successful already. I have a healthy family. I have a nice house. I'm healthy. I pay my bills. I'm successful. But some people measure success by how much money do I have? How many cars do I have in my driveway? Oh, look at my wife. She's beautiful. But you're missing the point. And that may be for you. And that's okay. Because everybody defines success differently. And there's nothing wrong with that. But having the drive to want more, there's nothing wrong with that either. And people, say, hey, Gabe, be lucky you have what you have. No, it's not be lucky. It's grateful that I have what I have. Don't be ungrateful for the things I don't have. But I still have the ability, the potential, and the drive to have more. So why not? And God wants you to have more. He wants you to have everything. He wants to bless you with what he's been wanting to bless you for the longest time. But we're holding back. We don't want to go down there because he doesn't know what he's talking about. But it says be obedient. Don't be upset because I correct you, but we put our hands in front of our chest. Shit, I ain't gonna do that. Who do they think they are? But as soon as we release all that, you can have the success in your relationship. You can have success in the bank. You can have success in your health. You can have success in your relationships, but you have to work it at all. If you lack anything anywhere, is that you haven't been paying attention to it. You haven't put the effort into it. And that's where a lot of relationships fail. Because as a human, we get in our way. Oh, I'm Leo. I do this shit. I don't need anybody. And then something happens like, oh my God, what happened? Now we got to step back and reflect and reevaluate and say, you know what, I better be, if I want this to work, I better be paying a little more attention to that than you do. And then you find that fine line and you can have it all. So your definition of success is different than my definition of success, but we both have the ability to have all the success that God wants us to have.
What's very interesting is every negative example you give, I see as a direct reflection of myself.
But I'm not here for that.
No. I know that, and I don't take to me. I'll be honest with you. I tell everybody. I'll get friends of mine. I'll send them a text. I'll shoot them a message. They'll respond later on, and they'll be like, "Hey man, sorry I didn't get back to you. I was busy. Blah 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 blah." And to me, I'm like, "Hey man, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. It's just me reaching out to you when you get a chance. You give." Same thing here. It's interesting because I know my flaws. And I've known that a lot of them are not desirable.
but don't don't dwell on your flaws.
No.
You know them, forgive yourself, move on. See, the hardest thing is for
And I think that's
people-
part of my strength too, is that I know what my flaws are. You know, I've always, even at a younger age, this sounds very contradictory, but I know my shortcomings, right? And I embrace them to some degree, but at the same time, I know where they're at.
Have you ever forgiven yourself, Gabe?
For just
whatever,
in general?
whatever it may be.
You know what? I'm gonna say no, but I'm gonna equate this as a conversation I just had earlier. Me and Thea Gracie were talking about closure with my brother Eddie, who passed away. This is very similar to that, in that, and I'm gonna be a complete idiot right now, and you're gonna go, holy shit, just stop recording. I'm going home. But like with Eddie, we talked about closure, and it's like I talked to Thea Gracie about it, and it was like, well, I don't know that I want closure, right? Because I want to have that feeling. I want to remember Eddie. I want to have a little bit of pain, right? It reminds me, you know. So as far as like forgiving myself for anything, you know, I have this weird mentality where I like to hang out every now and then in the negative, right? And this sounds stupid, but sometimes I like to hang out in the negative because I've never been the type of person that dwells there. I just hang out a little bit and then I get out of it. Like, you know me outside the, I'm an idiot. I'm loud, I'm obnoxious, I have a good time, I laugh. I'm like that all the time. And I think that I'm able to enjoy life because I spend a little time in the negative, right? I don't go, that was in, it's gone. Other people might, and it probably works for other people. But for me to sit there and spend a day or two being bummed out, I think it was just this past weekend. I don't know what I'll be honest with you, Leo. I don't know what I have the AC set to right now, but I am freezing. Sorry, Bo. I'm getting a little shaky. But even this weekend, man, I had a shit weekend. It was probably a blessing that we moved podcast to today. I had a terrible day yesterday. I don't know why. Friday, I don't know why I had a terrible day Friday. So those were 2 days that I was in the negative, right? And so Nina was like, I don't like how you're being, blah, 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 blah. I think it was last night. I don't know. Must have been after midnight or something. Told Nina, hey, I feel great. She looked at me and she's like, well, good. She's like, what changed? I don't know. My mentality. I was just, I every now and then, I like to spend a couple of days in the negative, right? But that allows me to be the loud, obnoxious, fun Gabe that's, you know, every other day of the week.
Well, see, that's the funny thing you say that, Gabe, because weed and grass need to be together to coexist. If you pull out all the weeds, then the grass doesn't know what to do. So you have to have that little bit of negative, but you can't dwell in it very long. The other thing is, you can remember your brother in a happy place, and that's what he wants. He doesn't want Gabe to have that negative feeling to remember him. Why would you remember your brother in the negative aspect when you can remember him in the positive aspect?
I will tell you this. It's kind of a screwed up situation. And I think this partly plays into me being in the negative from time to time. My siblings, well, I'll use my siblings directly. We love each other. We'll do anything for each other. We truly do love each other. But we always interacted in the negative, in the sense that we treated the negative like other people treated positive, right? If my brother had a failed relationship, it was like, no wonder she hates you. You're a loser. And we always force-fed each other our negatives. We always force-fed each other our negatives, so that it got to the point where it was like, oh, it's not a big deal anymore. You know, I've been shoving crap down your mouth. I don't even care anymore. It doesn't faze me anymore. And so that's how we always dealt with each other. It was always, hey, look at your shortcomings. Now, if somebody else was like, hey, your brother's a loser, it was time to argue, right? But for us, it was like, here's your negative every day, every day. And it got to the point where it was funny. And so we crack on each other. And a lot of siblings do. They crack on each other. You make fun of each other. You're always being ugly to each other. My dad would always say, you guys got to stop that. You got to treat each other better. And it was like, Dad, this is how we love each other.
That was the relationship y'all built.
So with Eddie, like even Gracie was like, your brother would want you to be happy. And I say, wait, you don't remember Eddie. It was funny for us to put each other in those uncomfortable places because we knew you're gonna make me feel bad. You're gonna put me in an uncomfortable place, but you're not gonna let me fall off the cliff.
Right.
I love you.
Right.
You're my brother. I'm not gonna let you go over the edge. I'm gonna push you over there, and we're gonna laugh about it. But that's where we live.
And that's great that as brothers you could have that relationship. But now that he's passed and now he's watching over you, you need to honor him in the positive, because that's all he wants for you. He's been telling you for the last year, Gabe, get your podcast going. Gabe, get your podcast. But if he was here, he'd say, you ain't worth the shit of your podcast, Gabe. You're never going to get that shit going. Am I right?
Yeah, he would.
But when he's up there now, he's watching over you. The relationship has changed. Now he's your guardian angel. Now he wants you to honor him in the positive because he wants you to move on to where he knows that you need to be, where you know you need to be. And he's pushing you. And I'm sure he's pushing you.
Yeah.
And that's why you want to go back to the negative, because you don't want him to push you, because that's not where we were. That's not us.
Yeah.
But that was then and this is now. So you need to honor him, in a positive way, and you need to move forward, and you need to use him as a strength because he treated you like that, because you know what he would tell you, because of what he told you would do, the things that you would do, to the point that I'm not afraid anymore. So the question you gave is why are you afraid now? What's the difference? What's changed? He's passed. He's guiding you. He's your guardian angel. He's watching you. He's telling you what to do. Why?
I think it's that small town mentality, right? It's this is where I'm from. This is where I've always been. This is how we interacted. Like what you just said makes so much sense. But I've got the small town mentality, right? I don't want to leave the negative because that's where we lived. That was the fun. Funny story. I think it was a day or two after he had passed. I had this vivid dream about him. We were at my sister's house. And I told my dad about this. And we're at my sister's house in the kitchen. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching him leave. And he turns around, and this was typical Eddie. He turns around and he slaps me in the chest with the back of his hand. And he slaps me in the chest and he says, hey, asshole, it's all right. I'm going to be okay. And then he left. And it's funny because even in that dream or that interaction,
The reality.
The reality, it was still, that's how we interacted. It was a slap to the chest. It was a, hey, asshole. My Facebook pictures of him that I post once a month, half the time we're shooting the finger at each other. I was going through my Dropbox. I think this is what helped me feel better last night, too. I was going through Dropbox looking at old photos, and I see so many pictures. And it took me a while, but I saw so many pictures of me taking a picture of food, shooting the finger, or a menu, shooting the finger. And I was like, well, what is that?
That was Gabe being
and I was like,
with Gabe.
Those are all the photos I would send Eddie. Hey, look where I'm at. Look what I'm eating. And we would do that all the time, And it's funny because, again, kind of going back to what we talked about a minute ago, that's why I think that's why I refuse to let that go completely. That's why I refuse to let, the forgiving the self, the talking to Thea Gracie and looking for closure. I think that's why I leave wounds open, because there's some familiarity there.
Because there's some guilt, some shame. Because he's gone. He's no longer here. You can't have that conversation. But when he hit you in the chest, he said, hey, it's going to be okay. That means that he
said, hey, asshole.
Well, okay. I'm not like Eddie, but he said, hey, asshole, it's going to be okay. Meaning that he was going to be okay and that you were going to be okay. Yeah. That he was going to make sure that you're okay, because he's always made sure that you're okay. He's going to make sure that you get where you're going, because he's going to guide you to where you're going, so it's going to be okay.
Damn you, Leo.
I'm transparent with everybody, and sometimes I might hurt people's feelings, but those are things that they need to hear to move on, right?
Sure.
Eddie's a good memory, and you choose to remember him that way, which is great. But honor him and do what would make him proud. Because when y'all would force feed as you say, and then you would accomplish something, you'd come back and, hey, look, motherfucker, look at what I did, right?
Yeah.
No different. He's still here. He's still watching. He's probably sitting in this room watching. Say, hey, this motherfucker's telling it, Gabe, what he should have heard a long time ago, And don't be surprised you're walking out the door and you feel it telling, like, what the hell? Those are signs. Those are.
I always know that my siblings love me, and I always know my siblings want the best for me. A great example of that was one of the times that we had gotten pregnant. We had miscarriages, but one of the times we had gotten pregnant, and we told Eddie about it. He cried because he was so happy for us.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Those are the relations. Yeah.
Damn you, Leo.
It's okay if you want to cry on my shoulder. It's okay, man. It's okay. It's nobody here.
Why do you think this paper's here? We cried earlier. This has been an Oprah. This has been an Oprah day, man.
Yeah.
I tell you what.
Yes, sir.
You and Gracie have been killing me.
It's life, and we all face it. At one time or another, the race will come to our doorstep. You know what I mean? And the hurt has to turn into strength, because at the end of our rope, we find our strength, and we move forward. And there's no two ways. We want life different, but it's not different. The same struggles that I go through, you go through, the family go through. We all have our different struggles. Every house is broken. We just don't look close enough to see the broken pieces.
Yeah.
Because we're down on the mountain and we look up and we see a beautiful house and say, wow, man, look at that. I'd like to have that. But we don't know what they're going through. The guy and the girl, they're going through a divorce and their kids, upset. But we don't see that. Once you get to know the guys, oh, sure, you're going through that. I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We step back because we know. But so many times we see life through others' eyes instead of seeing through our eyes. And the Bible says, before you look into somebody else's to remove the speck, move the toothpick from your eye where you can see better, and then things will change, and they do. But it's unfortunate that sometimes we have to go through struggles, because the Bible says we should suffer nothing but persecution. And that's it. But we put our own struggles in front of us because we want what somebody else has. We want the big cars. And we go buy these cars to show everybody, look what I got, and we're dead ass broke. Yeah, and that's not the way to go about it. Don't be upset with what he hasn't given you. Be grateful for what he has given you, because when he's going to give you what he's got for you, it's going to be, wow, it's going to be overwhelming. But we have to wait for it and trust that he will give it to us. And it's all about mindset, perspective, how you see the world, how to use the world towards your advantage, taking opportunities and flipping them for your advantage. There was a time when I was in high school, and my dad, he played AAA ball club for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he was good. He just didn't have that mentor, right? And I made it, I think senior league, I made it to an all-star game, and I wasn't the starter. And I don't know what came over me. I said, you know what? I want to be a starter. What is it going to take? So I do it. And I said, what I got to do is, I got to put a little more effort. And I made a little bit more effort. And I practiced harder. And I showed up early. And I stayed late. And guess what? First All-Star game came up, I was a starter. And people recognized me. And people, hey, man, how do you do that? And I'm like, wow. And that's when I started getting the first, ideas. You know what? Do it for you. And you can ask Rose. She'll tell you, hey, you've been my rock. Everything that you said you and accomplished, you've accomplished it. So when I told her that I was going to quit my job and I was going to do this, she says, okay. I had her full support, of course. I talked to her and I talked to my son, and they're like, hey. I talked to my son. He says, Dad, he goes, I'm proud of you. I said, because the hardest thing is putting yourself out there, and you're doing it. Yeah. I'm proud of you. And that means a lot coming from a family member, because if we don't work for them, who do we work for? If I wasn't married, I wouldn't be doing half of the things that I did. I'd be doing something else. Yeah. But God put me in that position to get me to where I'm going through them. And just like this, Gabe, sometimes you think you're helping me doing this podcast only to find out that you helped yourself by realizing a lot of things. And that happens in life a lot. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to help with this. And then you realize, holy shit, I did that for a reason. You know what? I realized this. Man, it's not like, wow. And you help yourself. And you can't, you can't help but feeling, wow. And there's that wow factor. Wow. Why? A lot of people say, why did this happen? It happened for a reason. It happened for a purpose. It happened at the time. It like relationships and stuff like that. The wrong person at the wrong time, the right person at the right time. It's all the universe, the metaverse talking to us, but we don't pay attention to stuff like that. Ask why. Is it naive? Is it refusal? It's a combination of everything. It's society, it's culture, it's life, it's people. Sometimes I look and I'm driving down the road and I see people, right? And I'm like, what's going on in their world? What's going on in their world? And I don't see, and for the longest time, Gabe, I've never seen people as they are. I've always seen them as what they could be. And there's strength in that, because I look at Gabe and I say, Gabe, you have talent. You have talent. You can be amazing. You are amazing at what you do. Look at your setup. A year ago, 2 years ago, when did you start? 2 years ago. Look, how far, what did you start with?
It was this thing, itty bitty microphones that we had to lean forward like that to talk to.
And look at where you're at now. So you made progress, right?
Sure.
But you can only see the progress if you reflect on it and you appreciate what you've gone through, and that's what helps you get to the rest of the way. And then you have to find different markets, and that's up to you. Which market do you want to go into? Because look at the world. The new way of world is podcasting. There's podcasts out there. You're starting to get followers. It may take you 5 years, but that 5th year and a half, bam, it blows up. You start making more money. The thing is, what's going to happen to Gabe? Is Gabe going to change?
Oh, I'm going to get cocky as hell, Leo.
You got to be careful.
I'm joking.
You got to be careful, because easy come, easy go.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
It's tough. You have to stay humble. And there was a seminar that I went to, and it says you have prosperity and you have poverty. And when you have poverty, you have that scarcity mindset. You don't want to give anything. You want to hold on to everything. When you have poverty, you think you did it by yourself. But when you put poverty and prosperity together and you find purpose, oh my God, you found it all. That's it. And you have to be careful to go from here to there.
Do you think people need to? Do you think people can become successful at whatever that looks like for them without discovering their shortcomings? Do you think that somebody can, and not in a negative way, but do you think that somebody can naively work their way into success? Or do you think people have to see their shortcomings, recognize them, understand them to be able to move on?
Yes and no. Some people can accidentally get where they're going naively, and some people, after they become successful, will recognize it, and that will alter them. And there's some people that have to recognize them before they move on, but it depends on the individual, solely on the individual. I can't tell you what another person's going to do or what they're not going to do. I love watching people and observing and analyzing and stuff like that, but just because I do that, I can't tell you what you're thinking. You can tell me what you're thinking. I don't know your shortcomings. You can tell me your shortcomings. I will never know your shortcomings until you tell me.
Oh, I'll tell you. I told you half of them today.
Well, see, that's what I mean. Half of the time, I would know that. I see you on the street, say, hey, man, that's a pretty good guy.
Handsome,
beyond handsome. And he'll say, no, I'm not.
I just spent 2 days in the dark, Leo.
Had to come out. But nevertheless, definitions are defined differently. Time. Hey, I need time. Okay, how much time you need? Do you need 5 minutes? You need 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years? What do you need? You can't define it. And that's the same thing with success. You can't define it for others. You can't define what they're thinking. You can't define where they're going. They have to define it for yourself. And yeah, sometimes you'll be placed in the dark to find yourself. I feel that a lot of times God will take you and put you in dark places so that he can reach you, because that's the only way he can reach you. And you hear a lot of people say, hey, man, I had a bad accident. I used to do this, but now I've changed. Why? Because he put you in the dark. You found yourself alone the way you were born. And then you realize, hey, you know what? If I keep doing this way, give me a second chance. I better straighten it out. There's people that go down the wrong path and nothing happens to them. And they have all this money and you wonder, why, man, he's evil. He does this and he's there. But soon enough, bam, he's gone. What happened? Easy come, easy go. Where somebody works for it, works hard for it, and they have it and they sustain it because they know how to. So the new and the old that we're going through now, it's hard defining because everybody wants to get famous overnight. But they will become famous and then all of a sudden they're gone, right? Well, why? Something like you're putting together, Gabe, is over a period of time that will have the substance to sustain what you're doing so it's not going to fail. You've been through the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the rough patches. So when something happens, hey, let's do this, and boom, you move on. The other ones that haven't been through that will falter. Oh my God, you know what? That's it. Shut it down and let's go. I mean, you see plenty of companies that are there today and gone tomorrow and say, hey, what happened? It's a great company. I like their burgers. Now they're gone. For whatever reason, they're gone. They were doing wrong, and it caught up with them, and they're no longer there. And then you have the company say, hey, man, that place has been there for the longest time, because they've sustained, and they know how to handle their business, and they know when the pressures come, how to deal with them, when the ups and the downs, and they sustain. And they'll tell you, hey, it's because of what happened to me, I'm here. And the other will tell you, well, I never went through that, so I wouldn't know.
I think part of what I've started to learn as I've gotten older is I was one of those, hey, I want to get to the end. What's the end? I want the end. And as I've gotten older, and I think it happens for most people, as you get age and life experiences, they teach you. They're a good teacher. There's gold in the process. There's gold in the journey. And I think when people, I always say people get things, right? I get things late. I learn late. I think the sooner people can realize that the gold is in the journey through that process.
Oh, absolutely.
They appreciate it a lot more. They learn. If your end goal has value, and you ignore the journey, you don't get the totality of the value, because there's value in the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always one of those people that ignored the journey. I wanted the end game, right? And as I get older, I want to tell people, especially like my younger nephews and stuff, enjoy the process, because I didn't. I ignored it. I didn't pay attention because I kept looking down the road instead of around me as I was making my way down the road. And that's one thing that I think sometimes, as I've gotten older, I kind of get off the regret thing. What did I regret? No, I don't really regret anything. But I wish that I paid more attention to the journey, because there's gold in it. People ignore it.
And that's what I tell a lot of people. Don't worry about what's going on. Worry about what you're becoming. And that's what you're talking about, the gold.
Yes.
What you're becoming in between, what you had to go through, what you didn't. Because if you have your focus on the end result, like you said, you miss all of this. And when you miss all of that, you can never get it back.
Yeah.
And then when you stop and reflect, say, you know what, okay, I'm doing this, and then you appreciate it a lot more. And you're able to talk about it with confidence, because, hey, I went through the journey. I was processed. I did appreciate that I fell down and I got up and I said, you know what? Gabe's not what Gabe thought he was. So Gabe worked on it a little bit more, and Gabe got better. Now Gabe is where he's at now because of that. You can't go through a journey reaching the end result because you miss everything.
Yeah.
And there's no purpose. Why? It's like I was saying earlier. If I give you the company, you're in process. You didn't go through the journey. You can't handle it.
Yeah.
And that's what life is all about. So many kids want the end result. I want the $2 million. I want to be a millionaire. I want this, but that's just want.
Yeah.
You won't be able to sustain it. You just won't, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
A lot of people, you see it when someone says, oh man, so-and-so had a lot of money, they left it to their kid. Where's the kid? He's on drugs, he's wasting his life away. He lost the house, he lost the cars, a couple of years, he's lost everything. Why? Wasn't processed, didn't enjoy the journey. He just got the gold.
Yeah.
And the gold is shiny, and that's great because we're attracted to shiny stuff, but you miss the rough spots when the gold was being made.
I've often tell people, and they kind of look at me funny, is to enjoy it all, even the negative stuff. Enjoy it, because it's part of life. It's part of growing.
Oh yeah.
And there's some value to the negative.
There's a lot of value to it. But we're programmed
to avoid it.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot. If
Or even I'm gonna say this as kind of stupid, but small town Mexicanos, even just small town people in general, you hide your dirty laundry, you hide that stuff. You don't let people know about your trials. You don't the opposite's true. You need to let people know what you've endured. That way, when they want to take the same route you did, they know that what's coming.
Absolutely.
When they can appreciate you better by understanding what you've endured.
It's all about transparency.
Yeah.
I mean, once I know Gabe and his journey, I appreciate Gabe. I'm going to hire Gabe. I'm not going to hire the people behind him. I'm hiring Gabe because I know his journey. You know, people buy people. People don't buy other things. People don't buy, oh, what you did. They buy you.
A lot of good stuff, Leo. Well, let's tell people, where can people find you if they need to reach out to you or services you're providing?
I have Z Inspirations. You can reach me there.
Z Inspirations?
zinspirations7@gmail.com. You can reach me there. I have an Instagram, Z Inspirations as well, although I haven't put a lot of material on there because I'm just starting my journey, but I will start building it. I have a bling code, but you'd have to access it through my email.
What is a bling code?
It's a bling where you put it on your phone, you have a code, you take a picture of it, and all my information comes out.
Oh, got you. You see, more technology I'm not aware of.
I'm not the best. My mentor tells me I have to post every day, and I'm getting used to it. My grandkids know more than I do, but it's something that I want to do. I was always against social media because social media shows us what's cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't show us what's important.
Yeah.
So we want to be cool. So therefore we miss out on what's important. There's other countries out there that they show you what's good. Hey, school is good. Graduating is great. That's what and in the world that we live now, we have dropped from where we used to be because of social media. We really need to use it towards our advantage, but stay away from the distracting things that keep us there, because me and everybody else would get our phone and we'll spend an hour and a half and we look at the clock and say, I should have been asleep 2 hours ago, but I'm here, and
Stupid TikTok, man.
Nothing of that brings you any closer to your dreams or to making any more money or anything like that. It just takes up your time. It distracts you from what you're supposed to be doing, is getting sleep for the next day.
I'm the same way. I think there was a time period in my life where I was kind of like, well, social media is boasting, social media is just this, that, and the other. But the more that it's hung around, the more it's a necessary evil, right? Yeah. And it's kind of one of those things where, yes, it's a time killer, it's a trap for killing time, but at the same time, it's how people, and especially young people, communicate. It's the way they reach to each other, and they show each other information, and it's like for us to be the most effective people that we can, we need to try and reach as many people as possible. And unfortunately, social media.
And it is. My daughter, she uses social media all the time. I had a conversation with her the other day. I said, look, your kids are at the house. You're on your phone a lot. You need to pay attention to your kids. She says, Dad, you don't understand. I said, explain it to me. She said, when you see me on my phone, I'm networking. I'm DMing people. I'm getting business. That's my business. And I realized, I said, holy shit. Yeah. She's right. So where I saw she was wasting her time, she's capitalizing on her time. Yeah. And that's the difference between the old generation and the new generation. My mother-in-law says all the time, she doesn't do nothing but on her phone all the time. She's not taking care of her kids, but she's working. She's a single mom. And her husband or her ex-boyfriend, he does well. He helps out with the kids, and I appreciate that greatly. But she's starting to find herself. She's starting to build her own business. She's starting to find her independence again. And when she gets on it through social media, it works. Yeah. It works. It's like I said earlier, we have to get the old and the new and mold it together and make a new world, because that's where we're headed, and there's nothing we can do to change it. Yeah. We have to release or divorce some of the old, embrace the new, and move forward. And it's great, but there again, when you're in your comfort zone, you don't want to let go of the old, because that's all we know. Sure. But when you learn the new, it's like fantastic. Yeah. It's fantastic.
We're definitely in for a wild ride, man, with this, especially for people like us where we grew up reading the classifieds.
Or the obituaries.
The sports, and what was the comic book strip? So
Marvel, ESPN, Batman, Superman, all those. But no, it's a wonderful ride. COVID did something that awoke a lot of people. Yeah. And we're trying to get a grasp on it. And some of the older people are. And some of the older people are like, oh my God. When I was in school, we never had a phone. If you had to make a call, you had to wait. Yeah. You go to the office, can I borrow the phone? Now, if you leave your house without the phone, you're like, oh my God, my phone, we panic.
Well, it's a computer too. Yeah. I mean, you've got everything at your fingertips. You can buy things, you can sell things, you can get a ride, you can order food.
And that's just it. The resources that you need to do whatever you need are at your fingertips. Yeah. A lot of times we forget that. Oh, how do I do it? And the next person right by us will say, hey, man, just Google it. Like, oh, snap. And you got it. Oh, yeah, there it is. We can order food and groceries and everything to our house. And I mean everything.
Yeah.
You don't have to leave your house. But when you don't leave your house, you lose that social interaction.
And that's the kicker for this younger generation, right? I think the most successful for the younger folks and just in general is somebody that can utilize that software, but at the same time interact with real people.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, there's so many people that are brilliant at the software, but can't have a conversation. You know,
No.
And that's the hard part.
No, it is, because a lot of these young kids say, "Oh, I have a lot of friends on TikTok," but they meet one at the bar or they meet one at the restaurant. Like, oh my God, they step back. I don't know you. Say, hey, man, we've been talking for 3 years. I really don't know you, because now you're invading my space. But on here, you can't invade nobody's space.
Yeah.
You can only say things to hurt their feelings, and depending on how you take it, it's how you react.
Yeah.
And that's the world we live in.
Yes, sir. Well, Leo, I appreciate you.
As well.
Thank you for coming by.
Thank you for having
And again,
me.
what was that social media link or the?
It's a zinspiration7@gmail.com. You can get a hold of me through there. If not, you can call me at 361-460-0070. That's my personal phone. You can reach out to me if I don't answer. Just leave me a message and I will get back to you.
Leo, I appreciate you, man.
As well.
Thank you for
having
coming
me.
out, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.